The news didn't come as a major shock. Mr. Berlusconi had been very unwell and had been readmitted to hospital with a lung infection associated with his long-term leukemia. Despite that ill health, though, he remained influential right up until the end. His Forza Italia party is still part of Italy's ruling coalition under Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and Mr. Berlusconi was serving in the Senate, which is quite remarkable, really, seeing as a decade ago he was convicted of tax fraud and banned from public office for 6 years. He really was the master of the political comeback, having 4 stints in the top job, the latest ending back in 2011 when Italy was facing a financial catastrophe. He came from relatively humble beginnings. He started selling vacuums and singing on cruise ships. He owned a TV station that he managed to turn into a media empire, earning him billions and giving him a very public platform as well. He then bought the football club AC Milan back in the 80s before heading into politics. His style was certainly flamboyant and unconventional, to say the least. He once left his host Angela Merkel standing there at a NATO summit while he just chatted on the phone. But it was the repeated personal scandals that often saw him in the headlines. He was in and out of court battling fraud and corruption charges, most of which he ultimately beat. And then there were those so-called bunga bunga sex parties that he would frequent. He was even convicted of paying an underage girl for sex, but later acquitted by a higher court. Now, there's an interesting array of people paying tribute to the late Prime Minister. The Pope says he joins the Berlusconi family in mourning a man who he says had an energetic temperament. The current Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, says he was a fighter, a man who defended his beliefs. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair says he was larger than life. And Vladimir Putin has paid tribute to the 86-year-old, calling him a dear person and true friend. And Mr. Berlusconi caused outrage recently, defending Russia's war in Ukraine and sticking by Vladimir Putin, who he's maintained a relationship with over the years. The Russian president doesn't have many friends left in Europe, but he had one in Silvio Berlusconi. And the former Prime Minister's critics say that's just another thing that will tarnish his legacy.